Welcome everybody to another episode of the Internationalie podcast. This is season 2. So this is a new season, and today I am joined by my very dear friend Selam. Hi Selam, welcome to the show.
Hi, Ruth. Thank you for having me. And I didn't know I was the first episode of the next season, so that's
Yes,
cool.
yes. So it's season 2. I'm very, very excited about it as well. So before I start, I think let me talk a little bit about the podcast. So the Internationally podcast is going to be a space where different international students, prospective ones as well as current international students, could get a glimpse of the life of international students in the US or abroad. As I mentioned earlier, this week my guest is Selam. So let me talk a little bit about my guest. So Selam is from Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. She studied at Seton Hall University in New Jersey, majoring in physics with a minor in Medical Humanities. I have no idea what that is. You have to tell me.
Sure.
So she graduated early in December of 2020, and she's currently in the UK studying global health science and epidemiology at University of Oxford. Do you want to add anything else?
No, that is a good introduction. Thank you. That's it.
You're welcome. So can you tell me a little bit about medical humanities? What is
Okay, so yeah, a lot of people get confused about that, but medical humanities
Yeah.
is basically studying medical stuff, but in the form of literature. So we don't deal with humans as physically as they are, or like it's not about the biological process, but more of like the social aspect of medicine. So we do study like literature stuff, which happened to be my favorite thing, and I loved it more than my major. And if I could go back, I would make it my minor because it was so cool. But sadly, they didn't have it as a major, so I couldn't have done it. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. I had no idea that existed, and that's actually really amazing.
It is a cool field.
Yeah. It sounds really cool. So the topic of our conversation today is dealing with uncertainty. So to just get us started with the podcast, I'm just gonna ask, what is the first thing that comes to your mind when you hear the word uncertainty?
Well, I think uncertainty comes in a lot of forms, and I feel like the past 2 years of COVID has really taught us that a lot of things in life are very uncertain, and we as humans, I think when we are uncertain about a lot of things, we get anxious, and when we don't have plans for the future, we get very anxious, which is true for everyone, I think, and that's what like COVID made me feel, and I'm sure other people felt the same way because and I think we also tend to like be so focused on having things planned, and I think it's okay to be okay with not being sure about what you're doing or what you're going to do in the future. And that's the lesson I got from COVID, and I felt like this topic would be great for us to talk about. And yeah, I'm not sure if that answers the question, but yeah.
No, it does. I mean, yeah, you were right. I think for me, when I hear the word uncertainty, I think what I envision is just like that fear and anxiety that comes along with like not knowing what's going to happen next. And especially like as an international student while in college, that's like a very common feeling among many international students. And I could like testify to that because even if like you are in school, you don't know what you're going to do next, especially like senior year, or even if you're not doing like senior year, even like during the summer, you're applying to things and like you don't know if they're going to accept you um because of your like visa status and all sorts of things that bring you some sort of anxiety, and like you're like, okay, what's going to happen next, right? So that's the feeling I get when I hear the word uncertainty, right? Do you agree with that? Or
I completely agree with that, especially as an international student. I think a lot of things we know of them, like when we become international students, we know of the uncertainties that we have, but we're courageous enough to take those risks and go into it. And I think especially for us as as students who are who have a lot of things on their plates. Like we have to be good at school, make our parents proud, and at the same time figure out what's next, you know. And I think it comes with a lot of package, especially when you're an international student. And I think it very much relates to us more than other people.
Right, right. And that just got me thinking, like, do I don't know if we can answer this question, but do like international students feel more uncertain about their future than like domestic students? Is that like a fair assumption to make?
I think so. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
I feel like especially like there's I don't know, maybe it's just an Ethiopian community thing or maybe other countries can relate to, but when you're out of your country and studying somewhere that is well developed, right? You might be
Mm-hmm.
studying somewhere else that's not really that much of a deal, but if you're studying, say, in America, for example, your parents or your family expects you to be like that very successful person that has figured it out in life and just doing amazing, even though you're not. You
Right,
know that's what they're expecting from you. You have to be that
right.
person in your family that does it all, and that's
Yeah.
not true all the time, and it really is the truth. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think there's a lot of pressure on international students compared to domestic students. Even after graduation, you're uncertain whether you're going to get that job or not, but you have to get that job because your family expects you to get that job. And
Yeah.
it's a hunger games out there because it's competitive to get a job, especially with
Yeah.
just a bachelor's degree. And you know, like, and you don't want to disappoint anyone.
Right, right.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that just like puts up like, additional pressure and like expectation from family members, and then the expectations that obviously you have for yourself to succeed and thrive even after you graduate from college, right? So I think my next question for you is, what were like, looking back at your like college journey and like your experience as an international student, what were some of the moments that made you uncertain in college?
there were a lot. I'm still an international student and just in a different country, but
Mm,
I think I think the whole journey was full of uncertainty, to be honest with you. Starting from the very beginning, choosing my major, I do I choose whatever I like or what I want to study, or do I choose something that gets me a job after graduation? Do I study what my parents want me to study, or do I study what I want to study? You know, things like that.
mhm,
That you start with uncertainty and you finish with uncertainty, to be honest. And so,
yeah.
for me, when I decided what I wanted to study, I chose physics, not only because I liked it, but I knew that I wanted to study medicine. And so I
Mhm,
thought, and you need to do well in your major if you want to be a pre-med, and you have
mhm,
to like what you're doing in order to do well.
mhm,
And so that's why I studied physics. And along the line, there were times where I asked myself, what are you studying, Salam? Like, you're not going to get a job with a physics degree. Like, who's going to hire you, you know?
right, right.
And I was always asking myself that, but you keep going because you can't, if you look back and you change your mind, you're going to lose another year. You're going to extend
Yeah,
your degree time. So
yeah.
I I decided to go with it. And like I
Mhm,
said, all the time I was debating with myself and asking myself what I was doing. And after
mhm,
graduation, I again kept asking myself, okay, are you really going to get into medical school? Because it's very hard to get in, especially as an
right,
international student. Anywhere in the world,
right,
really, it's so hard to get in.
right,
And then this opportunity came in, and I took it, and now I find myself in the UK. Um,
right.
and it's very uncertain, you know, and things just happen to you and just go
Yeah.
with the flow, but you don't lose sight of um, your dream. And
Mhm.
I think it's okay to just be uncertain because I don't think anyone is sure about what they want to do in life. Even if they're sure
Yeah.
about what they want to do, they end up
Yeah.
changing their minds at some point. And so,
Yep.
yeah, you know, you don't lose.
Exactly. Exactly. And thank you for sharing that, because I think that's an experience that a lot of people go through as well. And especially like with choosing your major, whether or not it's marketable, whether or not you're gonna get a job afterwards. Um, that's like a very real concern for a lot of international students. And like even for me personally, when I was in college, it's like not knowing what's gonna happen next is really frustrating, but it's like at the same time, you never know what's gonna happen next, and you can never be in control of your life, right? Like
Right.
plan things, like things could you want to do, you can plan, but how many of those things that you planned are actually going to come true? Like, for instance, like COVID is such a great example. Thank God I wasn't in college when COVID happened, because like now reflecting back, I honestly don't know how I would have survived with college. I mean, with COVID in college, because I have such respect to those of you who like did college during, because I think that's one of the hardest things to do. So kudos to you, like honestly, for like surviving that.
Well, yeah.
No, but
That's the
like
story.
seriously, right? Yeah. So when
Yeah,
that
yeah,
year
no.
started, right, I'm pretty sure you had like your plan, your goals. Probably you wanted to travel, I don't know, study abroad, or things that you wanted to do.
Right.
COVID hit, and then you had to like readjust your plan, right? How was
Yeah.
that for you?
No, I was just gonna mention also COVID earlier, but good thing you brought it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it takes a lot from you, but also teaches you a lot of things. Especially for me, like I said, I had planned, okay, I'm gonna volunteer in a hospital, I'm gonna shadow doctors, and that way I can build up my resume. And then, like,
Mm-hmm.
when you apply, you also have to test. And all those things were taken away from me because you couldn't go to the hospital unless you want to get COVID. And of course, no one wants you
Right.
to get COVID because they don't want to end up being sick because they got COVID
Right.
from you. And so all those things I wasn't able to do. And
Mm-hmm.
again, for the exam also got canceled because of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And it was always like anxiety because, okay, now
Mm-hmm.
that's gone, now that's taken away from me, what's going to happen next? And
Yeah.
like it's very unsure. And there's also the economic impact on everyone,
Yes.
families and people, friends. And you see
Right.
a lot of people struggling around you, and you're concerned about the future because you had all these things planned, and now
Yeah.
everything is out the window. And so that was really like a tough time, but I look back and I've learned a lot from it because it
Mm-hmm.
makes you to be okay. It has helped me to be okay with not being sure about things, not having
Right.
plans for 2 months from now, 3 months from now, because you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. And that doesn't mean that you don't plan for your future and just roll with the flow. But at the same time, you don't have to have plan for every single thing because
Mm-hmm.
every day is different and you don't know what's going to happen next. Yeah.
Right, right. And I
Yeah.
think that is such a valid point that you're making. It's like COVID made us all realize that, even if we plan every single thing that we want to do in life, like within the coming few months or for a year, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to happen no matter how well we plan it. Like the problem isn't how well organized our plan is. It's just a matter of execution, right? So how do you, I guess my next question is, how do
Yeah.
you learn to be okay when things don't go the way you want them to go? Like, how do you learn how to be okay with being uncertain?
I think the best way to look at things is to see that when one door doesn't open or when one thing doesn't work, that means there's a better door for you. There's a better
Ooh, I
door
love
that you
that.
haven't seen, and things
Mhm.
happen the way you've never expected them to work out. And so
Right.
you have to be okay with things not working out and not knowing what
Yeah.
you're going to do because something good is going to turn up from somewhere you don't know. And like
Right.
I say that because for me, I never thought I would come to the UK, let alone study at Oxford.
Right.
And I didn't know about the program. I didn't know that this program existed until like a month before the deadline. And I saw it on Facebook because this girl I know posted about it. And she said,
Wow.
"Oh, I'm going to Oxford to study epidemiology." And she was trying to get into medical school. And she, decided to go here for the program, which was only a year. And I looked at the program and I was like, "Oh, this sounds really cool." And
Right.
and then I saw the requirements, and I did not satisfy most of them because they were
Hmm.
looking for people who had some experience in healthcare, and my major was physics, which was very
Right.
unrelated. And so
Right.
I was like, "Oh, I'm not going to apply because I'm not going to get in." But then I
Right.
looked at it again, and there was no application fee. So I was like, "Oh, what am I going to lose? Nothing."
Right.
So I
Right.
gave it a shot. I was like, "Oh, I emailed my professors. I told them that the deadline was a month away and if they don't mind writing me a letter, because normally you have to ask them way ahead of time."
Right.
But they were really nice. They sent it on time, and I found out that I got in like a couple months after I graduated. And in that 2 months, I was stressing out about what I was gonna do. There was still COVID. There was,
Hmm.
there were all these struggles that I was going through, and I found out like 2 months later, and that was crazy to me because that was the last thing I was expecting. Like I applied because I was sure I wasn't gonna get in, and the application fee was free also, so it was no loss
Right.
really. But yeah, and it worked
Yeah.
out, and I was just like
Yeah.
taken back, and I thought of it, and I was like, you don't know what things are gonna happen to you. You're gonna find out
Right.
something today, it's gonna work out tomorrow, and everything's gonna
Mhm.
be fine. So I think it's just to be okay with not knowing things. It's sometimes
Right.
good, you don't want to know everything about the future.
Right. And then because that way life is gonna be boring. Like if you know
Yeah,
every single thing
yeah.
that's gonna happen, right?
Imagine, yeah, that's gonna be so boring.
Yeah. That
You
makes
need
sense. That makes sense.
some mystery in there.
Right? Yeah. It's
Yeah,
kind of like the way it's meant to be, right? Yeah. But
yeah,
thank you so much for sharing that journey, because I think that's like a testament to like, and a very like perfect example to like what happens when you shoot your shot. But then I
right.
also want to like, take it a little bit back and talk about self-rejection, because I think that's like, I do it too. I know my friend does it. I know my other friend does it. It's like a common theme that I'm seeing among the people I know.
Mm.
And it's like, why do we self-select? Like, why do we think that we don't, deserve to apply to these like prestigious schools or like to these programs? And it's like, yeah, why? Like, why don't we, like, I mean, I'm so glad that you applied and like now you're doing it, but what was the reasoning behind like, oh, I'm not gonna do this?
I think I think it's also like because I'm a first gen um college student,
Uh-huh.
since my parents went to college, and so it's very hard especially if you're not surrounded with people who have been to these prestigious institutions, or in general in higher education institutions. You don't see yourself being there because no one you know, or like no one you remotely know,
Mm,
has been in that position, so you don't
right,
envision yourself being there. That's the
right.
first reason, I think. And
Mm,
second, I think we tend to have self-doubt. Like people I think people who have potential also most of the time tend to have
mhm,
self-doubt, more
right,
self-doubt than other people actually. And I think
right.
that's also one of the reasons that we're not surrounded with people who've been there. So we don't have people who
Mhm,
encourage us, who mentor us and push us
mm,
to break through these walls. And it's
right.
doable, honestly. I can tell you that it's doable. I'm probably the least
Yeah.
qualified person in my class, but I'm there, Like,
No, I
that's what
highly
I'm
doubt
saying.
that.
So
Right,
that people think like,
right.
you're not good enough, but you are good enough. And
Mm.
you don't
Mhm.
have to compare yourself with other people to see that you're good enough. Um, and yeah, and it's okay also because I have self-doubt, imposter syndrome kicks in every now and then, but
Right,
you
right.
just have to be okay with it. Yeah.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And I really, really appreciate you telling that story, because, for a lot of especially like high school students thinking about applying to colleges, I think they should shoot their shot, because you never know where you're gonna end up. And, the
Yeah.
experience of like being an international student in college itself is like pretty amazing, because you're gonna get to experience a lot of different cultures. You're gonna meet a lot of people from all over the world, and that's going to be like really eye-opening. I mean, at least it was for me, and like if I didn't go to like that specific school that I went to, I would have had a completely different experience if I had gone to college here in Ethiopia. Because even now, like talking to my friends who have been to college here, and how different our experiences are, I'm just like, wow, like, this also is, I think it's something to be grateful for, I think, and we don't usually think about. But like going back to the topic of uncertainty, um because like for me personally, when I was in college, a lot of things like were happening, and there are like a lot of opportunities also that come along with like being an international student. For example, like people apply to study abroad programs, people apply to different kinds of internships, and so you're like, okay, where should I apply? And at some point it becomes overwhelming, right? Especially like junior year, senior year, like right around when you're about to finish your college career. It's like, how do you know what to choose? Like, do you go with what you want to do, like your gut feeling, or do you go with what society tells you to do, like that's more marketable? Like, how do you strike that balance?
That's a good question. I think we have to start thinking about ourselves. I think as I don't know, our culture especially. I think I don't want to keep blaming our culture, but our culture puts a lot of
Yeah, no,
pressure
blame it,
on
it's okay.
puts a lot of pressure on us that we have to always satisfy our parents, do things because our parents wants us to do it. It's not about us. It's we don't own our life. This is my life. This is not my parents' life. This is not my neighbor's life. This is not my distant relative's life. This is my life,
Right.
and you live once, and you have to make decisions for yourself. And I
Exactly.
know, like, and I know people might think that, oh, like, maybe she's saying that because she's privileged, but
Mm.
even if, like, it's I know it's a privileged thing to have to choose what you want to do, but you
Mhm.
have to choose what you want to do, because if you're not happy, no one's going to be happy around you. I know you're going to think that, okay, I'm going to make my parents happy because they worked so hard for me, and
Mhm.
it's you want to make your parents happy, and understand that.
Mhm.
But if you're not happy, trust me, no one's going to be happy. And so I think you
Mhm.
have to start by making sure that you do what makes you happy. And that's why like I said, whenever I ask myself, what am I doing in college? Because
Mhm.
sometimes I ask myself, oh, how are you going to get a job with this degree? I
Right.
tell myself that you're doing this because you like it. It's not for the job. It's not to make your parents happy. It's because you like it and you want to do this.
Right.
And you want to make sure you remind yourself of why you're doing things. And
Right.
when you ask what you're doing things, if it's not for you, you're going to be in disappointment of what you're doing, even though you're
Right.
doing it for the people you love. If it's not for
Mm.
you, you're not going to be happy. And at the end of the day,
Mhm.
your happiness comes first. And I think you should go with. I know this comes with a lot of privilege, and I keep saying that because I know not everyone can make that decision.
Mhm.
Because there are a lot
Mhm.
of pressures from family members,
Right.
and and a lot of other things that come into play when you choose what you want to
Right.
do. But um,
Right.
even if you can't choose what you want to do, is I think you have to make it a little bit closer to what you like doing. um,
Right. Right.
and yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I totally agree with what you said. And I think it also took me a while to realize that because I really resonate with what you said. It's like if you're not happy, nobody around you is going to be happy, because that is so true. Because if you're not going to enjoy what you're going to do, you're not going to be successful and you're not going to be happy doing it anyways. So why suffer? Why do something that's not going to bring you any joy or fulfillment just for the sake of satisfying the needs or wants or expectations of other people? And
Right,
I do understand like what you said about privilege, because it does take a certain level of privilege to choose what you want to do in life,
right,
because
yeah,
some people don't get to choose that. But if you are in a position to choose a major that you want to do, to choose a career that you aspire to do, I think you should make that choice. I think betting on yourself at the end of the day is always going to be worth it. Like, because it's you. Like, nobody's gonna tell you what you should do. Like, you know what I mean? So I
right,
completely agree with like choosing what you want to do. Like for me, I think that came early on in my college career, where so my whole first year I was pre-med, and that was just because purely of family expectations. It's like both my parents are doctors, okay, I'm gonna go to medical school. But interestingly enough, it's like all through high school I was avoiding the thought of like going to medical school. Like that was like at the back end, exploring everything. And that was one of the problems I faced too. It's like I'm interested in like a lot of different subjects, so I had a very, very hard time choosing what to focus on. So after that first year, I was like, no, this is not gonna work,
yeah,
because I was not passionate about it. It wasn't because the subject was difficult at all. That wasn't the case. It was just I wasn't finding it. It just wasn't for me. I just knew it. And if I kept on that path, I knew it wasn't gonna serve me in the long run. Like I was gonna be a horrible doctor. Like it's not gonna serve me. So I
yeah,
had to choose like at the end of that first year when I was
right,
a sophomore to like change my major. And I was very, very grateful that my parents were supportive, that my friends were supportive. And I do understand like that is exceptional, because some parents might not support like the career choices of some of their kids, especially if they turn into like art or like more creative fields that are really unknown, um because nobody else has done it before. Like
yeah,
nobody in my family has studied sociology. Like I'm pretty sure that that's the case, but it's like I like choosing to do something different itself. It was exciting for me. With the path that was already laid out. So there was this excitement and or like almost like an adventure feeling of like choosing something that I wanted to do that nobody else told me that I had to choose. And I think what you said about like okay, now going back to like self-rejection. That's like my train of thought is like everywhere. But like going back to like self-rejection, I just wanted to reflect on what you said about why we self-select is because we don't see someone else you know in that position of power, in that position of being in a privileged institution, or like such a prestigious institution such as Ivy Leagues, or Oxford or Cambridge. But you're right, because if you don't see someone like you, I mean, this goes back to like representation, right? So
Right.
if you don't see someone like you, you don't think you could aspire to become in that position. But if you see someone like a woman, or like a black woman, an Ethiopian, someone who shares some sort of commonality with you, and you
Right.
see them thriving in these kinds of institutions, it makes you think, well, if they can do it, I can do it too, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure someone who's listening to this is gonna look at you, and is gonna look at me and be like, okay, if they can do it, I can do it too, right? And that's
Right.
the kind of I think the kind of environment, or the kind of community that I want to build is like, you can do it. Like, you should apply to things, and you
Yeah.
never know where you're going to end up. And I
Yeah.
really, really appreciate that. And even
No,
if
I
you don't
appreciate
see
you for
somebody,
creating this medium, for creating this platform for people to come and like,
aw,
talk about what they did. And I mean, if I can inspire someone just from, this
yeah,
conversation, I mean,
yes,
that changes a lot of things, and they'll inspire another person, inspire, you know what I mean? Like, so
exactly,
it's a
yeah,
huge deal. This kind of platforms, we need more of those, because we need other people to know about other people, because like
exactly.
you said, yeah,
Yeah, thank you so much for saying that, Sarah. I really appreciate it. But no, it's true. And even like ever since I started this podcast, it's been like more than a year now. Like, people have reached out to me like through different means, and said like, "Oh my God, like this has been like really great. Like, now I'm able to see what it's like to be an international student in college." And that's the point. Like, even if it helps one person to like
right,
see, just to get a glimpse, of like our life, how we led it in college, like, you know that's like, I'm more than happy with that. So going back to like our topic of uncertainty.
yeah,
It's like
I
jumping
know,
jumping.
that's
But
very me too, yeah.
right, yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess like our topic, focused more on the uncertainties we face while in college. But how do you deal with post college uncertainty, like adult life? I guess you're still in school, but
Yeah.
still it's different, right? How is it different, and how do you deal with being in a new environment, especially now that you have moved?
I think for me, it has been a little bit easier because I had my very first culture shock in America. So
Uh,
this is
yeah.
okay, whatever. And plus, like, a lot of students that study here are from America, really. Like, a majority of the
Oh,
postgrad students are Americans. So I can, like, relate
mm,
to them a little bit, because now
right.
we're both international students.
Uh, now they know what it feels like.
Now you know what it feels like.
Exactly.
um,
Exactly.
yeah, but like you said, yeah, it's a new environment. It's very different. The weather is different. The
Mm,
culture is different. But I think I learned a lot from my previous experience, so that helped a lot.
mm,
Uh, but I
mm.
think I think you get used to it and you enjoy it too. Like, I personally get bored so easily, so
Right.
this was a good
Right.
like change and like a
Mhm.
kick of adrenaline. So that was great.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
it's a good time when you're in a different environment and you push yourself to the limit. You're like, okay, like
Right.
now I'm getting too comfortable. I need to change things around my life, and so you move on to a different
Mm.
experience. And you mentioned that earlier with talking to your friends who studied in Ethiopia versus your friends who studied abroad, and you
Right.
see the difference in growth too. Like,
Yes.
it's a lot of things that change in you. Um,
Yeah.
not just school. Now it becomes about leading your whole life and discovering
Mhm.
who you are, what you really like, what you want to do in the future. And
Right.
you just I feel like when you study abroad and when you put yourself um in difficult situations where you really have to grow up and you are
Right.
responsible for yourself, and no one's telling you what to do. It's just
Mm.
you who's there for you, and you realize that this is just about you. You
Right.
you tend to grow a lot more than other people who are comfortable in their environment where they've grown
Mhm.
up, where they've
Mhm.
known the people around them their whole life. It's
Right.
so
Right.
different, and I think a lot of people should try moving out of their hometown and
Right.
living abroad for at least a year, because it really
Yeah.
helps you grow up in a way that I cannot describe it here.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And
That is
so
so valid.
it
Yeah.
is, isn't it? Yeah, that's what I keep telling people. I'm like, I know we've both went to college, but we have different experiences. Like, let me tell you.
Yes.
And
Right.
I wasn't just responsible for homework. Like, I had to do a lot
Right.
more other things. And
Mm-hmm.
um, I think that plays a huge role in your
Mm-hmm.
decisions that you're gonna make in the future. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think it's a
Yeah.
really great way to grow if you move out of your hometown. And I know it comes with a lot of uncertainty, and you're gonna be
Mm-hmm.
anxious most of the time. So, but
Yeah.
you grow with it. You
Mm-hmm.
learn to be okay with it,
Yeah.
uh, and the environment teaches you a lot. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly. No, that's such a, oh my God. I'm so glad you raised that because I really understand like what you're saying about how our experiences, even though it's both college, like they're completely different in the way that like, as you said, I think being in college itself as an international student, it's not just purely academics. It's like life as well. Like it's social life. It's like how you deal with money, finances. You're like a whole adult by yourself in the middle of nowhere, especially if you don't know anybody, you know? So you can imagine how
yeah,
much more adulting that requires. And nobody gets it right the first time. Obviously, you fail. You learn from your mistake. It's like
yeah.
a trial and error, right?
Right,
Unless you have like someone close to you who can
right,
guide you and mentor you, and like so that you can avoid some of the same mistakes that they made.
right.
As you said, the growth that you do, um it's immense. Like I cannot even begin to describe it. And that's one of the reasons why I actually really enjoy doing this, is because it makes me realize, and like it makes me look back and reflect about, oh, I did that. Oh,
Yeah,
I survived college as an international student. Like that was hard. Like I remember being in college and being like, okay, when am I gonna graduate? Like this is so hard. But then now, like it's behind me, like, oh yeah, that's something I could tick off. It's like, yeah, I graduated. But even just saying like you graduated, it holds so much more value and weight. And I don't think we really take the time to
yeah,
appreciate and to give ourselves the credit that we
right.
deserve. It's like it's such a hard thing. Like when you think about it, it's not easy to just be by yourself, and then like you don't know what's happening next, and it's like we did that. It's like
Yeah, I know.
it's
We
like
did that. Yeah.
yeah. So I think we need to be more like appreciative and grateful, obviously, for the opportunity that was given to us, but at the same time it takes a lot to be able to like go through the finish line, is just what I'm trying to say. And I'm very, very, very happy that you brought that up, because
It is.
even like as an international student, even though you face a lot more uncertainty, in terms of like your life or like what's gonna happen next, I think most of us find a way to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
And it might be finding the support from your friends, from your family, from church, whatever works for you. You're going to find something that's going to ground you and hold you still, so that you're not always like like,
Absolutely.
okay, what's
Yeah.
gonna happen. So
Yeah.
what were some of the things that you did, or some of the support system that you had while in college that helped you stay grounded?
Oh, I have to say my very best friend Faven. Like she's been the best.
Oh,
I love her so much. She's gonna be happy when she hears this
I
podcast
know
that
she
I
was
said
one of
that.
my guests for the
I
podcast.
know, I know. Yeah,
Right.
she told me about it. Yeah, but
Yeah.
she's been my whole support system, I have to say. Like we went through high
Mhm.
school together, and then going through college with
Wow.
her made it even more a
Wow.
happy story. So I
Right.
love her so much, and I love her so much. I'm gonna say it again.
Aw,
But
that's so nice.
yeah, and it's really hard to be away from her now, because
Mm-hmm.
she did a lot of. She always says that I'm the one who keeps her life fun, and she's the one who keeps my
Uh,
life safe, because I
yeah.
could sometimes do crazy things.
Right.
But
Right.
yeah, and I did have my church also. When I lived in New Jersey, I met incredible
Mm-hmm.
people there who are still friends. And I also knew some other people through friends. I mean, you get
Mm-hmm.
to know people through other people, so that
Right.
becomes a great support system for you. And
Mm-hmm.
it's very
Mm-hmm.
good to find your own little bubble, or like little community that you can go to, reach
Yeah.
out to, not just people from Ethiopia, but people
Mm-hmm.
around you. For example, for me, uh, I knew some friends from New Jersey,
Mm-hmm.
who are locals there, and so they helped me, find friends, find places. And the place that I lived in, also the owner of the house was from New Jersey, so she was incredible. And she also guided me meet other people and stuff like that. They even
Right. Right.
connected me with people who lived here that they knew of, and so when I got here,
Wow.
I could get in touch with them and ask them any questions. So
Right.
people actually care about you, and so it's
Right.
important to find a community that works and community that supports, and
Right.
that's actually really important. Yeah.
Right. Right. And yeah, thank you so much for sharing that story. And I mean, I think even like for anybody to be successful in any endeavor that they're on, I'm pretty sure like they need some sort of, support system. And that comes obviously from my friends and family, and even for me personally, like at Smith, like if I didn't have my close friends, that there's no way I would have graduated sane from that
Yeah.
school. Like seriously, like you need people in your life who are gonna check up on you, who are gonna offer support, advice, just be there. And I
Yeah.
think that's like very, very important because it helps you stay calm and like not really stress about the
Yes,
future.
super important. I can't stress
Right?
that enough. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
really important. Like friendships are super important. So yeah, choose your friends wisely. Like honestly, you
Very
know.
much. Yeah, it's very easy in college. The easiest thing you can do is lose sight of what you're
Right.
meant to do, and
Right.
so you can easily get in trouble. Like it's
Right.
very easy to get into, like,
Distractions are
yeah,
everywhere.
yeah,
Right.
they're everywhere.
Right.
You have to choose your friends wisely. You have to
Mhm.
prioritize things, and
Mhm.
don't roll with the flow. Like never go with the flow. Choose your
That should
lane
be the new
and
motto.
go on that lane. That's it.
Exactly. Don't go with the flow. I love that. That should be a
No.
quote. It's so true though. It's really true. It's true.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
literally, like people are crazy. I mean, college is, especially the first year, it's very easy to lose sight of
Right.
what you want to do, because
Right.
people are out from the restrictions of their parents, their family,
Mhm.
and so
Mhm.
they're out there to do crazy things. And if
Mhm.
you hang out with the wrong crowd, you're gonna end up in the wrong place. So,
Wow.
it's really
That
important when
should be a quote. I'm telling
no,
you.
honestly, yeah, like
Yeah.
especially the first year of college, it's very easy
Right.
to
Right.
get out of track. Yeah.
Sidetracked. Yeah. No, you're right. You're totally right. It's really easy to get sidetracked if you hang out with the wrong group of people. And I don't want to say like wrong, just like wrong for you. It might be
Yeah.
right for them, but just
Right.
who don't align with your values and like what you hold true, and like you know you need to surround yourself with like positive people who are supportive, who are who put your best interests first, and you are going to find people like that. I was very surprised, by the way.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I'm very, very appreciative of, is the fact that I was able to meet like really, really incredible people, and
Mm-hmm.
who I'm still friends with, by the way. Even after
Yeah.
graduation, they have become like my sisters. So it's like, if there's one thing I thank Smith for, is the friendships that I've gotten from it. If
Yeah.
anything, it's
Yeah.
that. And it's really, really precious, and it really helps you stay grounded, as we said earlier.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. um as we're ending our conversation,
Yeah.
um
I'm sad.
wh- I know the time limit that we have, but what advice do you have for international students, for prospective international students who are dealing with the topic of uncertainty?
I wish I thought of this question very deeply before I came here. That way I could give
It's
a
okay.
thoughtful answer.
No
But
worries.
from my experience, the first thing I would say is there's always going to be uncertainty. No matter whether you put in that application or you don't put in that application, you're always going to be uncertain in your life. So why not apply? Like,
Right. There you
apply
go.
and see where that goes.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what I want to say is that if you don't see yourself being somewhere, if there's no one around you to support you, find mentors, find people who are ambitious, who are doing what you want to do. And most of the times, the mistakes that we make is we ask people who have never been in the shoes we see ourselves in, if that makes sense.
Mm,
And so, if you're
yeah.
asking the wrong person, of course, they're going to tell you that you're not going to make it. They're going to tell you that it's not going to work because they haven't given it a shot. They haven't seen it work for
Mhm.
others or for themselves, so they're going to tell you that it's not going to work. So, and also take advices from people who are important. Don't take every advice that you get from people, because not every advice is going to help you in your life. So choose the
Valid.
advices that you're
Yeah.
going to take very wisely. Yeah.
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
and be okay with not being uncertain about things. And when you make
Mhm.
decisions, it's okay if you make the wrong decisions for now, because trust me, in the long run,
Mhm.
they're going to help you. Your mistakes are the ones that are going to help you the most. And so
Right.
be okay making the wrong decision and being uncertain about the
Mhm.
decisions that you're making, because
Mhm.
honestly, no one in life knows what they're doing, I can assure you. And even if they tell you they do,
Right.
they don't really, deep down they don't. Like
Yeah. That's
they're just
like the
doing,
biggest
yeah,
secret. Right.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. And
Nobody
be
knows. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Even when they say that they know what they're doing, they don't really know what they're doing. So it's
Right.
fine if you don't know what you're doing. And plus, like, I think when you're at 18 years old and you've just finished high school, you're not expected to know everything about your future. Like, I think that's also one thing that our us as, high schoolers in Ethiopia need to
Mhm.
understand, that we don't need to have it all figured out by 18 years old. We're just teens. So
Right.
yeah, and so
Yes. Yes.
I think it's okay not to be sure what you want to do in your life, and you're always not going to be sure. And there might be another pandemic coming for all we know. So
Who knows?
so
I
yeah,
hope not though.
who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
So like, give it a shot. It's worth a shot.
Yeah.
Everything is worth a shot. So give it a
Mhm.
shot, and don't listen to those advisors who tell you that you can't do it, because
Yeah.
I know you can. And if we did it, you can do it. Yeah.
There you go. Wow, that is perfect. Like, thank you so much, Selam. That's such a good advice. Like, honestly, if I heard that in high school, it would have saved me a lot of time that I spent
I'm glad
worrying
to hear
about my
that.
future.
Honestly,
No,
me
I'm
too.
serious.
Me too.
Huh?
Me too.
Yeah. No, seriously, like that's really true. Like, even for me, what I would say is, as you said, like, nobody knows what they're doing in life, and especially, like, we're just in our 20s. Like, we're not supposed to have everything figured out now. And I think, like, the whole idea of, like, comparing yourself to someone can be really toxic. To even it can affect your mental health as well. It's like, I always say, like, you should always compare yourself to the previous version of yourself, or previous accomplishment, so then you're always incrementally, progressing in life, and not just compare yourself to other people, because everybody's journey is different.
Yeah.
And and what you said about, like, seeking advice from people um who are, who truly understand where you're coming from, is really, really important. And
Yeah.
I think Michelle Obama, I think it was in her book that I read, where she was talking to her counselor that she was going to apply to Princeton.
Yeah.
Her counselor was like, you're not going to get in. And then, but she didn't let that, prevent her from applying anyway, which she did get in. And now
Yeah.
look where she is. So you
Exactly.
should never listen to people who tell you can't do anything. Like,
Yeah.
tell them to just shut up and then just do your job. Like, seriously, like, people are going to discourage you because they think it's too big of a dream for themselves, not for you. They,
Right.
they don't know your true potential. If they can't do it, they could also, they tell you can't either. So I
Right.
would say, like, choose the people you seek advice from, like, really carefully,
Very.
um because you're never going to forget someone who told you you're not going to do something. Either you're going to take that as a fuel to,
Mm-hmm.
to fuel your motivation to, like, actually prove them wrong, or you're going to internalize that and you're going to be like, oh wow, they're right, I am not worth it. So you have to choose the path where you're going to challenge yourself, because you have the potential. And even though things don't always go the way we planned them, I think the beauty is in the journey of
Yeah.
getting there.
Very much. Yeah. And
So
I think it's okay to be uncertain, because I
right.
also ask myself sometimes if I'm sure of what
Right.
I'm doing, and I most of the times I'm not sure of what I'm doing.
Right.
And so it's fine not to be sure, because
Mm-hmm.
every time in life there's going to be uncertainty, whether it's school, life in general, I don't know, marriage, kids. There's
Right.
always going to be
Right.
uncertainty about what you
Mm-hmm.
want, and it's okay to be fine with that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Right. Thank you so much, Selam. And with that, we end a beautiful conversation for the Internationalie podcast. Is there anything that you want to add?
No, thank you so much for having me. This was very pleasant. And I'm so glad that you have this platform for other people,
Thank you.
other students, prospective international students, and it's very helpful.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Selam, and thank you for agreeing to be my guest. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Me too.
Yeah. Thank you. So just last minute housekeeping. Please make sure to go follow the official Instagram page at Internationally by Root, that is LIE, and send an email with your questions and concerns about being an international student to internationallybyruth@gmail.com. Thank you again for tuning in today. I hope you have a lovely week ahead of you and take care of yourselves, everyone. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye bye.